My first option right now, available managers, Mauricio Pochettino. Has he won the big one? No, but in terms of style and playing in different places, I mean, he managed in Espanyol in La Liga. He managed it at Southampton, did a great job to move up to Tottenham, gets to a Champions League final, wins the Ligue 1 championship with PSG, but of course you have Messi and Mbappe.
Yeah.
And then in Chelsea, this might be one of his most impressive seasons as a coach because you're dealing with a hodgepodge of talent and, you know, Todd Bowley comes in as the owner and buys, hires him, and he's got to figure out, how do I get this team to play well? And they surged up the table in the second half of the season with Chelsea. He gets to a place in Europe, so they improved, he's done his job, and he gets sacked. And obviously there's a lot more things that probably happen behind the scenes, but I think he's a likable coach. The way he talks about tactics, I like the way he has figured out ways to get the most out of his team in Chelsea. I like his style. I really do. I think that would fit within this group.
Likable coach.
Likable. You don't just say you don't have to like him, but you have to respect him.
No, you don't. But
okay.
he's a likable in terms of the media. I'm not saying for the players. And then Xavi Hernandez, he won it as a player. He won a La Liga title. He has great ideas. He's going to be respected. Thierry Henry, same thing. Won it as a player, going to be respected. I think he's done an incredible job of trying to navigate coaching and media. Obviously, you don't have the best starts as a coach because you're learning on the fly, and I feel like now is a great opportunity for him to show and shine what a type of manager he is with a young, talented France group with all the pressure of winning gold on home soil, which is going to be similar to winning a big World Cup matches on home soil. So that pressure is there. He got third place with Belgium as assistant manager. So he's had the international coaching experience. So he checks both boxes. For me, he's got to be one of the top candidates. And if he wins gold, probably top two.
Yeah, this Olympics for Thierry Henry could really put him in a prime position to be a really sought-after candidate for the USMNT job. Alexis.
Yes.
So you're top five. Let's go.
So I tried to find a way to fit Patrick Vieira in this because I do think he brings about an interesting choice in that he has that pedigree of having been, you know, a superstar in a club game, really big in the international game, winning the World Cup, and then obviously, you know, coaching in America, not playing in America. But I didn't put him in. Here's who I put in. Let's start with Zinedine Zidane. Talk about someone who isn't the traditional charisma, but this man, one look from him and you're paying attention. Also, you want to talk about earning respect. And I know the big rub against him is that maybe he's not the one who is tactically so experienced or so has that respect, but he brings with him an entire team of people.
But he has no interest in the job.
I know he has no interest in the job, but this is my power ranking, so I put him at the top.
I know, but why put him in the list if he has no interest in the job?
Because there's ways
like putting Jurgen Klopp on there.
There's ways to convince him, and I think there's ways to convince Jurgen Klopp too, and that's money, baby.
Matt Crocker said they're willing to invest.
Yeah.
We don't know what that number looks like.
We got number two. We got Thierry Henry for every single reason you said. I also think his time coaching in MLS, I think he learned a lot. I think he learned a lot of what the kind of coach he wants to be, and I think we're going to see that in the Olympics this year. I think in a way we've already seen it when he was the assistant at Belgium, and he had to put his arm around Lukaku's crying based on a terrible performance. I think we saw him be able to connect, and a lot of the you know, podcast, what's the podcast appearances is the word I was looking for.
I was trying to throw you a lifeline.
Podcast appearances he's done. I think you've seen that he's been able to sort of connect with himself in a way that's a bit more mature. So I'm really looking forward to him potentially being coach. Thomas Tuchel, Marcelo Gallardo, I mean, if they erected a statue for him, and probably not the best choice of words, if they did build a statue for him in Argentina, probably a coach I want to have here. And then Arsene Wenger. Patrick Vieira and Thierry Henry's basically father figure. The guy who had them playing at the highest level. I think he'd be absolutely amazing. Maybe a little bit older. And then just below that would be Patrick Vieira and Cherundolo for me.
All right. Very nice. Well, I'm going next because, like I said, Nigel kind of followed the assignment, but not exactly. So I'll go first because I did end up ranking mine. Nigel did not rank his top five. So here we go. Wilfried Nancy at number one. And I know this might turn some heads because Wilfried Nancy doesn't have the international experience, but Wilfried Nancy has proven in MLS that he can get a team playing a tier above everybody else, along with the likes of Inter Miami, but with fewer stars, let's say, than what Inter Miami have. He has shown that he can relate to players and get the best out of a group and bring that competitive spirit. All things that the U.S. men's national team needs. He had a coy little sly response to being asked about. He's been in the mix for the job. It would be a great step forward for Wilfried Nancy, and is just someone I would honestly love to see take on that position. I'll skip Pochettino because we talked about him. Hervé Renard has done great things with the French women's national team, two-time AFCON winner with two different nations. He took Morocco and Saudi Arabia to the 2018 and 2022 World Cup, so he has that international experience, and he wants to be coaching in the 2026 Men's World Cup, which I think is really important to have somebody who wants that job.
Well, he did lose to Mexico, a bad Mexico in the World Cup. I know he beat Argentina and Saudi Arabia, but he lost to a bad Mexico in a World Cup. Just want to throw that out there. That's fair.
Gareth Southgate I have on my list because while he was always the bridesmaid, never really the bride with England, he did make that England team better. He got them further along. And for the U.S., they haven't gotten out of the round of 16 in the World Cup since 2002. I think it's very lofty to expect that the U.S. is going to go and make it to a World Cup final. You need somebody who can progress them in this competition. Gareth Southgate showed that he could do that with England. Mic drop, on to you, Nigel.
I like that. Don't ever explain yourself for Wilfried Nancy, because anyone who doesn't think Wilfried Nancy deserves to be in there doesn't know the game of football. It's that simple. I don't have a so-called power ranking. I just have a list where I feel that if you're US Soccer, you need to interview these players, these managers, and it's down for them to earn the job. If you don't interview them, that's your fault. Gareth Southgate, I feel, would be a good one, because you've got to look at the reality of the squad that you have, the players that you have, and it's international football. He's proven it with England. He's developed England to another level. Maybe not be able to get to that final step, but we're not going to look at this US team to say they're going to go all the way to win the World Cup just because it's on US soil. That's just unrealistic when you look at the player pool. But for development of a manager, and depending what American fans look at success, whether it's coming out of the group stages or last 16 or semis or quarters, it's different for different people. But I think Gareth Southgate has proven at international level. Ralph Rangnick is another one that I believe has proved at international level, who could work with the player pool and the players that you have there. Thierry Henry is a name where I think most Americans would be happy with, but again, it depends on his success that he has at the Olympics, and I think that will be a name that pleases a lot of Americans where they can take it to another level. Domestically, without a doubt, Wilfried Nancy should be in the conversation and be interviewed. He knows the American culture. He's coaching in MLS. He's shown tactically how good he is. His Columbus Crew is the one team that play football in probably a very European fashion compared to how MLS is judged. And I feel, for me, that that is a manager who's young, vibrant, can get the respect of the dressing room. And they're the ones, and also Rafa Benitez there, where I feel he's older, but they're the managers for me, I feel, realistically, with the squad that you have and the players you have, could work for
I'm with you with Wilfried Nancy. He's the only MLS manager that could
domestic
take this job.
manager, I would say. I know he's not American.
No, only MLS manager that,
I would agree with you
could
on
take
that.
this
He
job.
has to.
That's the only one.
I had Jim Curtin on my list only because I could see USMNT and U.S. Soccer. Are you a little worried about the timeline of how this hiring's been going?
No.
Okay.
You don't think, given the opportunity, Tata Martino could be a good manager for the U.S. men's national team?
On that note, we're going to step aside for...
The Tata we beat with the U.S., with Gregg Berhalter's young side?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Hey, interesting that no one had Jurgen Klopp. I guess the money doesn't talk. That guy is going on vacation.
England already came for him. It was the U.S., and if people were like, oh, maybe it's the U.S.
No.
England came, and he still said no.
He's
no means no.
Jurgen Klopp is like, give me a pina colada. I am kicking my feet up.
Yes.
Nobody call, nobody text.
None of
I'm
us put
taking a
Pep
break.
on there
All
either.
right.